Day 2, shall we? Let's kickstart things. It's the 25th of April. It's a Friday. Night 1 of the 2025 NFL Draft is in the rearview mirror. We've got a lot to discuss as a result. We're so glad you're here. It is a quick turnaround for a lot of you. I see the live chat. I feel your pain in a lot of ways. It's that limited sleep day 2, but we're looking forward to talking about Malaki Starks, the 27th overall selection, Sarah, in last night's draft. It was the opening round. It's a safety out of Georgia. And we're going to talk about how he fell to the Ravens' lap. What took place throughout his pre-draft process? What took place during the combine in Indianapolis? I did not have a chance to watch him or talk to him at the podium. Of course, hindsight's 2020, right? You wish that I would have put the effort in to do so. But at the time, he wasn't as popular, or he probably was a popular pick, being that he was mocked ultimately 28 times of 83 mocks that Jonas Schaefer looked at prior to last night. But anyway, we are just going to go deep dive here to start things out on Malaki Starks. Today's live stream is brought to you by our friends at Mantis Sleep. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside Sarah Ellison, and partner. I know we were both really thrilled with last night's turnout, over 9,500 peak concurrence at one point late in the night. That was well after midnight, which was just an awesome really turnout and showing of support from you guys. And then we do want to say thank you to our featured guests once more as well. Femi and DeKid Gowie and Keaton Mitchell and Pat Ricard and Jimmy Smith and Charlie Kohler and Cole Jackson. Did I miss anybody? I think I just ripped them all off right there. So
there were 7, I believe.
Yeah. Hopefully you guys appreciated that as much as we did. We've loved the feedback that's been pouring in over the last few hours, and we hopefully will have more to get to. Including day 2. The Ravens will be on the clock for the 59th overall selection in tonight's second round. They'll also have one in the third. It's great to see you. Your parents are in town. You got a lot going on this weekend, but more draft content to discuss in the meantime.
Hey, football is just sprinkled on top of everything that we got going on. And last night was fun. Last night was a blast. And I appreciate your efforts as you guzzled down more energy drinks. You said to me they're going to try to take a nap after this. You're not going to do that with those energy drinks in there. You got to cool it there so you can sleep.
What I don't want, I'll go half of this and then I'll fridge it after that. But what I don't want is for me to hit the wall that I did late last night.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Which was pretty obvious.
It is funny. I always like to toy with people when they're tired. I was doing a little bit of that with you last night. So, but I'm excited. I'm excited. We got Todd McShay off the top here to talk about how he did. Listen, everybody, they say the same thing for, Chiefs or for the Eagles or this and that. When you're consistently drafting at the back of the first round, the only thing you can do is hope that a guy who you had rated higher on your board than if you pick at 27, that he was higher than 27. In a few cases, hopefully, the 5 to 10 range kind of higher. And so once again, just like they're saying for some of the other guys that have other championship caliber teams that are later in the rounds, that somehow, some way, just like it always happens, they get steals. And that's kind of what they're saying this morning, Bobby. Plenty of draft pundits giving the Ravens A's. Saw a couple B pluses, maybe B's. Haven't seen much lower than that. And it's because of this guy right here, Malaki Starks. So remember, back in we covered a while ago that coming out of the 2023 season, Mel Kiper had Malaki Starks in like his top 10. And here we are a year later being drafted at number 27. How did that happen? I know you listened to all that Todd McShay stuff, which has to do a little bit with the combine and measurements.
Yeah, it does. And I think he did a great job here. It's going to be one of the more lengthy snippets that we typically share when it comes to clips, but it's a little under 4 minutes, Sarah. And I think he does a great job of talking about Nick Eamon-Warry's just skyrocketing type of stock that he was able to put forth that ultimately led to his skyrocketing stock, I should say, the way that he performed in Indianapolis at the combine. And so he will take us through the South Carolina safety, how he ultimately really did a lot for himself back in February in Indy, but ultimately, even despite some underwhelming test results from Malaki, I think his tape loomed large and clearly stuck with the Ravens. It was enough for the Ravens to feel like that he was their guy. He was their value pick at 27, and it was worth taking. Todd McShay, now in the digital space with us, crushed it last night, by the way. He's coming up on 200,000 views on his 5-hour-long live stream. He hosts with a former ESPN analyst, a draft guy as well. They both have Northeast roots in the Boston, New Hampshire area. Steve Mensch is his name, so you'll hear his voice. But mostly, Todd is taking us through how ultimately Malaki ended up falling in the Ravens' lap and becoming one of the steals of last night's opening round.
Explain Starks to you. Malaki Starks, unfortunately, comes out and he had one of here's the hard part with when you're going up and Nick Eamon-Worry comes out. And Nick Eamon-Worry is 6'3", 220 pounds. And you can leave that up for a second. 6'3", 220 pounds, 32-inch arms, ran a 4.38. It was a legendary workout for the South Carolina safety, okay? 4.38, broke the combine broad jump record by 4 freaking inches at an 11.6. And then his 43-inch vertical jump was the best by any player at 200-plus pounds ever, any position at the combine, okay? So Eamon-Worry's doing all that while Starks comes up. Starks runs a 4.5 at 6'1", 197 pounds. 4.5 versus 4.38. Oof, doesn't look good, right? Only 4 safeties ran slower than that 4.50. Then he runs a 7.263 cone, slowest of all the safeties. Then he runs a 4.45 short shuttle, slowest. Then he had a 33-inch vertical jump, third worst. So it's like, yeah, Eamon-Worry, man, he's going to be a top 15, top 20 pick, right? I thought it too. But then you dig in on the tape, and then you dig in on the background, you dig in on some of the concerning parts with Eamon-Worry. And then you go back to the tape with Starks. Much better play speed than 40 time indicates. Covers ground quickly, 2 high looks, single high, matches with slot receivers and off coverage. Matches up well with tight ends. Love his position versatility. Can play nickel, free, even cornerback in a pinch. Smooth mover. I wrote this. Safeties don't usually move like this guy does in pads. Everything's smooth, easy, fluid in his turns, in his transactions, right? Or transitions. 6 interceptions, 22 pass breakups in 3 seasons in Athens. Active run defender, fills it hard. And then you get to dig in on his stuff. And it's like, oh, wait, Kirby talks about this guy the same way Nick talked about Will Anderson, in the same way that they're talking about some of these guys who are getting drafted really high, right? Like Donovan Jackson, Will Campbell, Tyler Booker. Durable, consistent, team first, tough guy, does everything you want, always there, understands the defense, understands the concepts, can change week to week. And now you plug it in. What does that mean to Baltimore? Well, Baltimore.
Okay, hold on real quick, Bobby, before they get into the fit of how he fits into Baltimore. He's talking about basically that Malaki Starks fell a little bit based off of like those measurables, those slow times with the 3-cone, 40, all that kind of stuff. This for sure is a repeated pattern with some of the Ravens greats. You know who else had a bad combine? Terrell Suggs. Terrell Suggs, his measurables, his results there at the combine is what pushed him to the Ravens. Well, let me give you another name. Kyle Hamilton, right? He didn't follow it at 27. The Ravens had a higher pick when they drafted him. But he's one of the reasons why he dropped down, and now he's an all-pro because the Ravens stuck to the tape. And that's what Todd McShay is here. And he used to talk about this all the time, Ray Lewis was a smaller linebacker, right? Smaller inside linebacker. He fell down into the 20s. The Ravens picked up their offensive tackle, their future Hall of Famer, Jonathan Ogden, earlier in the draft, and then came back around to Ray Lewis. These guys that fall, they fall for a reason. Something's not right. There could be a medical. There could be these measurables. The best is the measurables at the combine. Medical we hate to deal with because you never know if they're going to bounce back. And then what just highlighted even more that you know, kind of not great showing is what he's saying with Eamon-Worry there. And so it just is tried and true with the Ravens. is that some of these guys won't perform well in their underwear, right? At the combine in Indianapolis, but then they rely on the tape. And so that's why time and again, you'll have like a Suggs, a Hamilton, a Ray Lewis, or in this case, Malaki Starks. He's got to prove that he can be on the level of those other guys. I'm not saying that he will, but it's why somebody falls to number 27 and people start calling him the steal of the draft. And it wasn't just Todd McShay, right? Here's PFF right here. PFF calling Malaki Starks the second biggest steal after Josh Simmons, who went to the Chiefs at number 32. He does have medical, so that may be why he fell. And James Pierce Jr., who got picked up right before the Ravens. Barron and Walter Nolan. Those were the steals according to PFF. Malaki Starks number 2 on that list.
I went back and did some research this morning leading into the live stream, trying to get more of a familiarity for Malaki in different interview settings. And back in Indy, Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio and Chris Sims had him on their show prior to his testing. And they asked him, hey, Chris essentially tried to set him up. Would you be happy with a 4 or 5 in the 40? That's like a very average, maybe even below average for when it comes to DBs. And Malaki didn't bite. He's like, I'm not going to be happy with that. Well, guess what? He ended up running a 4 or 5. So that was just one of, and we've already mentioned it. You heard Todd mention it. You kind of alluded to it. Whether it was the 10-yard split, the 40, the 3-cone drill, not the best showing that you could have ever put forth, which was a part of why he was there for the Ravens. He's a cerebral player. He's not going to overwhelm you from an athleticism standpoint. Matter of fact, his overall score from the combine ranked 18th among those at his position. But I think Georgia asked a lot of him last year. Kirby Smart allowed him to showcase that versatility. And so what you're about to hear them address here, I think Mensch is going to get into it a little bit, is had he come out in 2023, you might have seen him as a bona fide top half of the first round pick last night, which I think is what we're kind of getting at here. Here is the second half of that clip from McShay's live stream last night.
News for you.
He's a great compliment to Kyle Hamilton. Great compliment.
Phenomenal.
They're going to be perfect for each other. By the way, the tape with Starks isn't clean. There was a chance he could go a lot earlier than this.
Baltimore allowed 58 plays of 20-plus yards last year, third most in the NFL.
Right.
This guy single-handedly will not fix it, but will play a big role in cutting down that number.
It'll make it better, that's for sure. There's zero question.
No, go ahead. Finish up on Starks.
I think the reason the Ravens are lucky, and it's one of those things you'll look back on, and this has happened with other players, right? You'll look at Starks' 2023 film and be like, this guy's going top 15. And then last year, there was a couple of moments where he's caught in bad matchups and coverage. He wasn't quite as good as you would want for a top 15 player. He falls, and who's there to swoop in and take advantage of it? Eric DeCosta, the general manager for the Ravens. It is a typical Ravens pick. He's a great fit for what they need to do. He fills a need, and he's a player that probably dropped because he didn't have a great year. But when you look at the overall body of work, he probably should have gone sooner, right?
Yes.
Yes. Listen to the emotion. He probably should have gone sooner. Yes. Yes. He should have gone sooner.
I think that's the end of the night too for McShay, and he's probably feeling like I was at 12:30.
Absolutely.
He's got bags under his eyes and whatnot,
Yeah, and it's also why Bobby, late for work over at the Ravens website. I started this column back in when my son was born in 2009. I love to see that it's still going, but Kevin Eck, who writes, is one of the writers for it now. He went around and did a roundup of all the grades, all the draft pundits giving grades. And I think, we don't need to read all of them because he's got a gazillion of them. But look at these grades. Pro Football Focus grade for this pick, elite. The Ringers, Danny Kelly, A+. Sporting News, Vinny Iyer, A+. SB Nation's Joseph Acosta, A+. Yahoo Sports, A+. Pro Football Network, A+. NFL.com's Chad Router, A. Bleacher Report, A. USA Today, A. For the Win, A. Then we're finally getting into some B's. The Athletics, Scott Doctorman, B. Pete Prisco, B. Pete Prisco wanted to see the Ravens get an edge rusher. We'll talk about that soon. I know a lot of people in Baltimore do. USA Today, B. And then there weren't some other grades here. But I mean, there were like, 8 A's there and maybe 3 B's. And it all comes back to, I think, what Todd McShay was saying there is that it's just, talent that fell down the Ravens, which seems to happen more frequently than not.
We appreciate you guys for being with us on this day after. Day 2 coverage begins at 7 o'clock tonight. The Ravens, of course, will pick 59th overall. And then what's the number in the third? Let's see. I have it right here from last night. Round 3, 91st. So 59th and 91st tonight. 2 in the 4th, which will kickstart the 4th round, or will kickstart day 3 on Saturday. 1 in the 5th, 4 in the 6th, and 1 in the 7th. Shall we get to some super chats and a Mantis Sleep read before we continue the conversation and talk about some of the traits that Malaki is bringing to Baltimore?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. First of all, a bunch of new members joined us last night, and they're still popping up. So let's just rip through these. Pop Punk Cowboy, Azariah, Dope Dad, Joe Jenkins, and DJ Burke just became brand new channel memberships of ours. Channel members, I should say. It's the English, the simple English that just doesn't work the day after. Thank you guys for becoming channel members, Voltron channel members of ours. If you guys are interested in doing the same, you can visit the show notes and click on that link to learn more about what it means, what it takes, and what you'll be getting in return as a channel member. That brings us to Deshaun Davis, who's exactly that, Sarah, a Voltron member.
He said what I said last night. All our AFC North rivals went defensive tackle / pass rush. He says, I like Starks. I'm just worried about our offensive line now.
I got to tell you, that makes me think of what one divisional foe did at 21 and was not going after Shedeur Sanders. It was Pittsburgh taking Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle out of Oregon. And what a story. He, I believe, heard his name called and then immediately went off to the hospital where his mother is currently on life support to let her know. And I don't know what she's dealing with. I didn't look into it.
Wow.
I didn't look into it, but it's clearly, a severe issue that she's battling right now. And Derek has not only used his NIL money to help her purchase an accessible van with what she's dealing with, but he left the draft. I'm not sure if he was in Green Bay or not, but whatever he was doing, whatever his plans were last night, he left them and made sure that he was bedside to let her know. Hopefully she could hear it. I believe she's in a coma, that he has heard his name called and his dreams were realized last night. So I know he's the rival. I know he's now a Steeler, but what an unbelievable story. You got more on that?
Yeah. So here's his quote, and then he explains it. He says, it was a little bit, talk about a bittersweet moment. My goodness. It was a little bittersweet. My mom wasn't with me. She's at the hospital right now on life support. That was a little bittersweet because she's worked just as hard as me to get to this moment. But it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Like I said, I'm very excited. He detailed his mother suffered a stroke during his freshman year at Michigan State. She underwent brain surgeries, but her mother's love has no limits, and she would drive him to practices anyway. So it sounds like some of these health issues have started before now, started with strokes and has had brain surgeries. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Best of luck and love and prayers out to him and his mother. My goodness.
That's what Richard's doing right now via Super Chat. We, obviously echo those sentiments as well. Jack Kilroy, who I think he's feeling himself because he was the recipient last night of one of the 3 giveaways that we did. This was courtesy of Preston Automotive Group, the Kyle Hamilton signed mini helmet. Jack, by the way, I know you emailed me back. I ended up sending, this is what I get and I deserve for a 2 a.m. email that went out last night. And you guys knew the state of mind, for those of you that hung around until midnight with us, that I was in. I sent the wrong email to Preston. Jack, I corrected it today. So hopefully you'll have received something from Kate right now. Let me know if that's not the case, but we appreciate your support. Congratulations on being one of last night's winners. And please send us a photo when you get your helmet. We'll definitely share that. We definitely want to know where you end up putting it. If you have a man cave, whatever it is. Thanks, Jack. Life's crazy.
Love this pick. People want to talk about his slow 40 time, but had the fastest miles per hour in drills. This is why the tape is so important.
That's what kind of Todd and Mensch were getting at too in that opening clip that we shared with you. Rave Kingdom is a channel member of ours. Did he become one recently after we called him out? Did we miss this?
I don't know.
How long have you been a channel member, Rave? I feel like we were just talking about this. Anyway, we appreciate you. He says, hear me out. Malaki's a great pick. No disrespect. But the way the draft went, safety and corner, safety and corner were still on the board. Edge and offensive line was flying off fast. We should have got a position of need. Now the Chiefs got Josh Simmons. And with Josh Simmons, though, just playing devil's advocate, Rave, they get somebody who come September will be less than a year removed from a pretty significant injury. You got to take that into account.
And safety was a need. We'll get into that in a minute.
Safety was definitely a need.
I mean, the Ravens' pass defense was atrocious last year.
Was it the most glaring need? You'd probably say that's edge.
Probably.
But when you think about the edge rushers that had gone off in the previous, say, a handful of them, maybe in the last 10 picks leading up to 27, it's just quintessential Baltimore philosophy that they went with Starks because of where he stacked up on the board, because of the edge rushers that were already off. I know Mike Green was there and what Ezeraku was there, but hard to ignore the value that they got in Malaki. Boise
says, as we get older, you witness why you keep following certain franchises, the identity, the decision-making, roster management, not always about, what is that? Wins or losses.
I would not have gotten that one. Good call. Good snag. Robert Smith says, drafting Starks frees up Hamilton to roam free again and be a game wrecker. Another one from Boise.
Says, from Brian Billick to Harbaugh and Ozzie Newsome to EDC, no wonder why this franchise keeps getting my attention since 1999. The way they treat drafts keeps them relevant. There's no lies there.
And Dope Dad 322, who just became a channel member. Do the Ravens move up for an edge like Ezeraku or Green, or stay put and get an offensive guard like Tate Ratledge? Well, they got
my guess is they get a corner this in the second round. I don't think people are going to like that, but there's a lot of good corners coming up.
Hey, Sarah, you know what?
I would love them to move up to get Ezeraku or Green, though, by the way. But I don't think it's going to happen. Eric DaCosta was asked last night. He goes, you guys ask me every year if I'm going to move up. And he's like, I tell you every year, I don't really like to move up unless it's for Lamar Jackson.
Literally. That's where you don't think he's having a poker face on. If there's one area that he does not typically have a poker face on, it's staying put when it comes to the draft. Hey,
well, he moves. He just usually moves back.
Yes. When it comes to upward movement.
Yeah.
You just reminded me, though, that I saw a tweet on this, and I just wanted to go jog my memory. So Matt Miller, who's a draft analyst for ESPN, in his second round mock, he's got the Ravens going after East Carolina corner Siobhan.
Yeah, we're doing mocks. We got mocks coming.
Well, the reason why I'm bringing this up, though, was, and maybe we can do it in just a bit, but I'm pretty sure that was the player that Keaton was touting all night.
Oh, from yeah.
That's the only reason I'm bringing it up, just because you mentioned corner and Keaton was, ECU pride all night last night with us, which was fun. John R. says, what's up, fam? I love you. We love you, John. You were with us pretty much all last night, if I'm not mistaken. So thanks for being here today. Moneybag checking in.
They talked about Hamilton 40 time 2, and here we are. LOL. Starks is a dog. Played in big games his whole college career and always showed up and out. He started as a freshman, right? Plugged right in.
Yeah. Couple championships, a lot of high leverage reps, as it tends to be in Georgia when you're competing for championships. Rave says, yes, safety was a need, but a bunch of them were still on the board, which was true. Eamon Worry.
Eric DaCosta said that. Eric DaCosta said there are a lot of good safeties in the draft, but we got the best one.
Yeah.
That was his thinking.
Time will tell.
Mm-hmm.
Rico from BMO.
He said, they said the same thing about Kay Hamilton's time. Yep.
And Rave, one more clarifying point. The offensive line and edges were running out, was my main point. Thank you guys for being here. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Mantis Sleep. It's the official sleep mask partner of us here inside the vault. Got so many different ones to choose from. Our friend Holly was last night's Manta giveaway winner, meaning I will be sending her personally, because it's sitting in my house right now, the Mantis Sleep Mask Pro that she won. We were randomly giving away a number of things last night, including Orioles tickets, a Kyle Hamilton signed helmet, and the Mantis Sleep Mask Pro. That's what I used last night. Sarah, I gotta be honest, didn't do much for me last night between the construction that woke me up at 7:30 in Baltimore City. For those of you who are local and live in the Canton or Fells Point area, you know what I mean. If you know, you know. But regardless, this thing is comfortable. It gives you a number of different guarantees, like true 100% blackout, C-shaped eye cups for unbeatable side sleep comfort, if you so choose. Zero pressures applied to your eyelids or lashes. You've got advanced materials and ventilation for unmatched breathability that are built right in. And if you find something you like, do yourself a favor and use our discount code at checkout. That is VAULT10, VAULT10. That'll get you 10% off your next purchase. You'll be helping yourself and your sleeping patterns, and you'll also be helping us out, because the bottom line is when you support us, well, really when you support our brand sponsors, you're supporting us. So continued thanks and appreciation to Mantis Sleep for all the support this offseason. And that now brings us to the 5 traits that you've jotted down on what Malaki is bringing to Baltimore.
Yeah, we'll talk more about what the Ravens still need, right? Obviously, we still need a pass rusher. They're still, to Rave Kingdom's point, could use, depth along the offensive line, swing tackle, guard, edge, inside linebacker, cornerback. So the Ravens still have needs, but they do have their first round draft pick. And I really want to talk about what he does bring to Baltimore before we worry so much about what they still need, because we do have more picks to come. But my number one thing that Malaki Starks is bringing to Baltimore, if you don't know much about him, these 5 things will give you a pretty good overview. And that is versatility. I want to lean upon Daniel Jeremiah and his analysis right after the pick was made on NFL Network last night. Look at all the places that he lines up and how he succeeds in each of these different positions.
Be that on top of the Christmas tree safety there. Someone who is very smooth, fluid. You talk to the folks at Georgia, they talk about the leadership he provided. He has got big time character, excellent communicator, and excellent leader. Here he is down the field, locating the ball in the deep half, showing you those ball skills. This was in an early game here, first game right out the chute. How about this play? Watch him go up and get it.
That was the season opener.
That was it. And so you wanted to see a few more plays on the ball. He didn't get those opportunities the rest of the year, but watch him tackle, watch him fill the alley, close, and get guys on the ground. You can blitz him, which Baltimore is going to cut everybody loose in that defense, Joel.
Bobby, the versatility is fantastic. You saw they showed him in the deep half. You see him in the slot. You see him, defending the alley. I like the way they put it in run defense. How about if you want to pursue? You want him to pursue a quarterback? You want to do a safety blitz? Malaki Starks has got your back. How about ball skills when he's tracking the ball? The opposite of, say, a Brandon Stevens, even though they were different positions, the way he locates it and he's able to get those picks. I mean, he's fallen back in the air. He's able to get it done. Playmaker right there. In 2024, according to PFF, he had 400 snaps in the deep half as a safety. He had 271 snaps in the slot. He had 215 snaps in the box. And you can add on to it because John Harbaugh feels like he can also play as a dime linebacker. Here he is here. I think when you look at Malaki on tape, you see all the different positions he plays. Both safeties, nickel, dime linebacker, which is what he says, which is what Kyle does. And I'm going to get into more. We'll get into the fit between him and the team in just a minute. But we're just talking about his skills and how that'll play off of Marlon and Ardarius, and Kyle will get into on the 5th point. But John Harbaugh sees it. Daniel Jeremiah sees it. Malaki Starks has been touting it both on the field and in his interviews. The versatility that he brings to this defense will have Zach Orr and company being uber creative.
And hopefully that comes with a sense of calm too, like a
Mhm.
calming to a secondary that through 10 plus weeks last year was anything but. No one needs a reminder inside these walls of the McShay statistic that he floated out there of the amount of 20-plus yard plays that was allowed by the Ravens defense last year. Again, most of which came in the first half of the season prior to the personnel adjustments. I don't know if Malaki is going to come in and change that number overnight, but you sure feel confident that it can't get any worse for starters. And if they pick up where they left off last year, then you're going to be in pretty darn good shape. I think he brings a sense of calm to this secondary. And I used the word cerebral earlier on. Again, the athleticism isn't necessarily jumping off the page at you. That's okay. They got plenty of athleticism in the secondary. If he can bring that sort of that center field style of stability, I think it's paired nicely with what they already have.
Well, he can do center field, but that's not all because he's not Marcus Williams, right? That's all Marcus Williams was basically doing. He can do that, but so can Kyle, and that's the beauty of it. But you mentioned the word cerebral. Maybe that was a better word. Number 2 I put as what Malaki Starks brings to the Ravens is his intelligence. Listen to Eric DaCosta. He said he was one of the best combine interviews he's ever had. A couple questions later, the media follows up. What do you mean by that? Why was he one of the best ever? Here's where Eric DaCosta calls him, as a rookie, like talking to another coach.
I just think it was remarkable, the way that he could discuss football, his awareness, his ability to call out the plays from their defense before we even showed the plays, just based on formation. His ability to dissect and talk about what happened in any given play and to know what his teammates were doing in any given play. I mean, it was like he was a coach. And, when he got up, we just were all kind of like looking at each other, and we use a grading scale. We grade every interview, and a 7 is the best, and across the board he got straight 7s. So it was just super impressive. I haven't seen that type of detail in a long time.
Yeah, so they grade him. He got pretty much the best grades possible. And to your point, Bobby, I really liked how you said that he'll bring a calm, right? And part of that calm is just because when you know, you can be calm. When you don't know is when you're more frantic. And so a lot of those plays that the Ravens gave up of 20 yards or more, 15 yards or more, some of it was just busted coverage and not knowing where you're supposed to be. So the fact that he could tell EDC where he felt like everybody was not just where he was supposed to be, but where his teammates were supposed to be, that's exactly what they'll need to make sure there's no more. We don't need to see any more Bengals receivers getting over top because you didn't know where you were supposed to be. And so as a rookie, that is great that he'll come in with that type of knowledge.
Jimmy, last night, you're just making me remember when he brought up unprompted Jamar Chase, because you were asking him about alignment and personnel with three receiver sets. I think it was the question that you asked him. And he must have his own PTSD from going up against Jamar Chase towards the latter half of his career, and Jamar was just kind of starting out of memory. I think there was overlap there. Don't quote me on that, but clearly the Ravens are in much better situations right now to handle Cincinnati than they have been in recent years, because as we all know, the Bengals have torched them. Torched them.
Hate even thinking about it. Okay, number 3, what does Malaki Starks bring to the Ravens? Well, he rises above adversity. And boy, oh boy, do I need that in the playoffs, right? Now, this is personal adversity that I'm going to be speaking to. Dane Brugler, who does The Beast, this first note of what his family has been through came from Dane. He said that as Malaki was raised in Jefferson, which is a small town in Northeast Georgia, he was raised with by his parents, obviously, but they were homeless. Well, Malaki Starks was in grades 3 through 6. And so all of them kind of stuck together. He said they're a family of 4. And then they just kept bouncing around for temporary solutions, which is why, Bobby, I had to put this picture with Malaki and his mother, because they know. It's kind of like what we just heard from Harmon, right? Which makes it's so sad for Harmon on his draft day. He said, my mother worked just as hard as me, but she can't enjoy this with me. You know, your heart goes out to them. In this case, Mrs. Starks did get to enjoy this. Look at him. Look at her. Look at her just grabbing him. And there is very few things that will bring tears to me more than, you know, a mother and her child celebrating together, because just not always, but a lot of times successful children is because they had parents sacrificing for them. And you can see it in her eyes. You can see it in the way he's cheering, yelling in jubilation, that is just like, we were homeless together for 3 years bouncing around. And look at us here with the entire world's cameras pointed at us in the lights. And look how we've overcome together. Like, you just, there's nothing that gets me more than a person or a family rising above adversity. Absolutely love that. Then to add on, go ahead.
Well, I guess the obvious elephant in the room is that you think this guy needs any motivation.
Yeah.
You know, you think you think you're going to struggle to motivate this guy at the NFL level? I mean, he's
seen it.
He's seen it, and he's checked the box that was your number 3. Did he not?
He
rises above adversity. I think this is the epitome of doing exactly that. What do you got for 4?
Well, on top of it, let me finish the story with him. So where's the number 24? I'm going to do a quick clip of him talking about his fit in just a second. But why does he wear number 24? So his cousin named Keon, he was older than Malaki and played football first. And he really looked up to him. So he started wearing number 24 because of that. But Keon passed at an early age. And so Malaki continues to try to honor him. And he did the same thing last night. Here he is with Cassie from the Ravens. Just the very end of an interview talking about his fit and giving a shout out to his late cousin.
Pink is my favorite color. Used to be, now it's purple. So these are my shoes that my fiance got me for my first ever football game. They're my Christian red bottoms. I had to pull out some red. This is a pendant from my cousin who passed away when I was a kid, who's no longer here with me tonight. And this is a watch. I had to get the watch to go with my chain. The chain is my last name, and I don't know what number I'm going to be. But my cousin used to wear 24, so I got 24 hidden within my chain. So he's just here with me tonight.
Bobby, who wears number 24? Can you look it up as I go to like the next point? Who's got number 24?
Got you.
Oh man, the last person I remember wearing it off the top of my head, I feel like was Marcus Peters. Oh, Smitty says it's Bo Braid.
Is it
You
Bo?
might have to do some chatting. I don't know how hooked Braid is to 24. Does he have the same sentimental feelings, or was it just available?
Well, Bo's got to make the
Well,
roster.
now people are saying 24 is vacant.
No, Bo's got it, but maybe they're in their mind they're thinking Bo's not a lock to make the team, which, you know,
he'll probably make it as a special teamer, but we'll see. Or maybe Sanusi Kane. We'll see. They got plenty of safeties now.
He was, of course, one of the Maryland surprises last year, the undrafted rookie out of Maryland, like you said, most of which was special teams. He was undrafted as a safety. That's his specific position. But yeah, the numerical roster right now has him at 24.
Okay, so he switched from 6 to 24. All right.
6 right now is a practice squad receiver, Anthony Miller, who got some time in the divisional round, as we all remember.
That's right. All right, the fourth thing that Malaki Starks will be bringing to the Ravens, he is a Red Star player. For those that don't know what this is, I mean, Eric mentioned it last night, but he explained it more back. I think it was in 2016. That's where I got this quote. I remember hearing about. I remember the first time I heard about a Red Star player was already all the way back in 2008. They had some Red Star players that year. Mm-hmm. So here's what a Red Star player is. So every scout gets to put a Red Star on one prospect, just one. You only get one. And it's supposed to not just signify what they do on the field, but also what they do off the field. And as Eric said a couple of years ago, he said these Red Star players are not necessarily always the best players, although in Malaki Starks' case, he for sure is the best safety. He goes, but they're usually the very best kids. He said their work ethic, their demeanor, durability, character, practice habits. He says the way they carry themselves and running to the football in the fourth quarter. He says we try to draft as many of the Red Star players as possible. Malaki Starks, one of the Red Star players this year. They don't always get them, but and in this case, you're combining this Red Star kind of emblem of who he is off the field and how he plays, and you're matching it with what Eric said earlier, which is that there are a lot of great safeties, but we got the best one.
I learned of the term a few years after you did, probably in 2019, through some pre-draft stuff that I was doing on the radio with Joe Ortiz. So a pretty good guy to learn from. He's the current general manager of the Chargers. Of course, LA, to no one's surprise, Sarah, took a running back last night. I think Omarion Hampton, if memory serves. He was the second of first was Ashton Genty. But of course, he was at the time when I was learning about this Red Star label, he was the director of player personnel, somebody that, I know you shared some walls with for a long time in that building.
Fifth and final thing I'll say of what Malaki Starks is bringing to the Ravens is he feels a major need. Is it the biggest need? No, I think we agreed that was edge rusher, but he feels a major need. We talked about the way this defense looked last year. Weeks 8 through 10, scoring defense 25th, total defense 27th, pass defense 32nd, third down percentage, which is when you're given, 30th, red zone 20th, and opposing passer rating was 26th. Now in weeks 13 through 18th, if you take out all the stats and start from fresh, they became first. But as DeCosta said last night, an easy way to lose a game is to have a bad secondary. And so the Ravens, as much as they improved in that graphic I just showed you, by the end of the season, Bobby, they were still the second worst in passing yards total and passing yards per game. Obviously, an edge rusher could help that also. But those 63 completions of 15 yards or longer is a big deal. And so does this fill a need? Absolutely. Would an edge rusher getting to the quarterback help the passing game? Absolutely. Was the pass rushers that were available at 27 better than Malaki Starks? According to the Ravens, no. They said by far he was the best player that was there. And then so as you get in here, we were about to talk on this a little bit more, but not because he feels the need in helping that out, Bobby, versatility is really what describes the entire secondary. Malaki Starks can do a lot of things that Kyle Hamilton does. Now, can he do it at an all-pro level? I think we should not go there quite yet, but he can. I just talked about all the places he can be. And this is what makes John Harbaugh super excited. He's like, opposing offenses aren't going to know. Whereas in the past, when it was Marcus Williams or when they had a change and just put Kyle deep all the time, and our Darius Washington was more strong safety kind of nickel, defenses knew what those guys were doing. And now they won't know because Malaki and Kyle can move in different positions. They can both safety blitz. They can both play the nickel, both play the slot, can both go deep, all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, Marlon can move around too, inside, outside, and our Darius can move around. And so it's really just Nate and Awuzie that will be on the outside. But these other four guys here, offenses have to beware. Quarterbacks are going to have to diagnose what's going on.
Think about if a fan favorite, I don't know if fan favorite's the right term, but somebody that I think has some optimism surrounding him that's not on this graphic takes a leap in TJ Tampa. Just another piece to the puzzle that you have. And as I think we both are in agreement on, they're probably not done drafting corners over the next couple of days. So this graphic could expand depending on how, the next couple of days shake out, is expected to expand. And then let's see what TJ Tampa can do if he can stay healthy throughout this offseason program and actually have a training camp, which he did not have last year.
Absolutely. He'll fill out and get better. So anyway, that sums it up, Bobby. That's Oh, yeah, that's for Atlanta. Yeah, that sums it up. Versatility, football IQ, rises above adversity, Red Star player, fills a need within the Ravens secondary. That's what that man, Malaki Starks, is bringing to Baltimore in this upcoming season of 2025.
Great breakdown. 1 of 11 total picks, 2 of which will be coming up tonight. 1 in the second round, 1 in the 3rd round. Coverage begins at 7 o'clock on ESPN. Super chats before the Atlanta discussion and mock drafts.
Yep.
Meaning 2nd round mocks.
Yep.
We left off with Kobe, who writes, now that the Giants got Carter, do we reach out about Thibodeau, Kayvon Thibodeau, a high pick of theirs from a couple years ago? Not sure, Kobe. Monica?
Love the pick, and let's go tonight for rounds 2 and 3.
Moneybag says Chase and Higgins going in a seatbelt. Starks won 2 national titles under Todd Monken.
There we go.
Opposite side of the ball, but hey, Todd Monken was there calling plays in the booth for sure. David checking.
I do like that Starks has that championship pedigree. You've been there before. I like that. Yeah. David says Bo Braid gonna have to give up 24 with that story.
Right? I think we were all kind of thinking that. Moneybag taking a shot at Matabike says still looking for him. Y'all seen him? Hey, Moneybag, I saw him doubled all last year. I saw that.
I saw Odafe Owe and Kyle Van Noy both have double-digit sacks, and I don't think it's because they're game wreckers.
Don't think so either. One more from Marcus Frazier before we get back into the content. Appreciate you guys. Over 2,100 concurrents today, Tila. I believe almost 1,000 on YouTube. So great day after live stream. We'll be back on tonight. Marcus says, when coming in the draft with questions at guard and your division rivals all went D-line in the first, you have to combat that with the lead offensive line play to protect Lamar. They drafted players to get to Lamar. Failure by not choosing offensive line. They got 2 more days, bro. They got 2 more days, man. Their offensive line right now, if they were willing to go play football tomorrow, they'd have a starting 5. Do you feel comfortable at guard right now? Maybe there's some room for some discrepancy there, but they have a shoe-in starting 5 at least right now. They have a projected 5 that you feel good about. Do you feel great about it? Okay, maybe not great.
It's funny because last night when Charlie Kolar and Pat Ricard were on the show, I asked them, well, I was trying to make a point that basically the whole starting offense was coming back except for left guard. I was like, so you guys are in a pretty good position. And Charlie Kolar's like, now, hold on now. I don't know if it was Charlie or Patrick, but they were both in agreement. They were like, hold on now. They're like, remember, Voorhees was the starting guard last year. And so technically, if you go year to year, he's like, we've got all the starters coming back. And they go, remember, he did not lose the job due to ineffective play. It was because he got injured. And they said that dude is strong. He's living in the Baltimore facility. And you expect your teammates to do this, but they sure did give him a vote of confidence, being like, he can absolutely start week 1 and we would feel really good. So I don't know. I can't speak to it because we haven't seen Voorhees. We saw him for like 2 games when the whole offensive line was like a wreck, and or maybe 3. So I can't speak to it. Nobody can. Nobody on the outside knows how good Andrew Voorhees is or is not because we have not seen him. He's been injured. So all we can do is rely on the words of the people who have seen him. And then remember that they're his teammates. So maybe they're playing it up a little bit, but that's the only word that we have because nobody has seen him.
I think both players that joined us last night that can speak on it, Ricard and Kohler, to your point, gave teammate speak kind of answers, which is totally cool when it comes to, I asked specifically about Fa'alele to Pat before you came on. And then you asked, or somehow it was followed up on or something with the Charlie conversation on Voorhees. And he pretty much guaranteed that he's going to be the starter. That's Charlie's opinion.
I don't remember him guaranteeing it.
Oh, he did.
I said, would you feel comfortable? He's like, oh yeah.
Oh no, Charlie.
All right. We'll pull it in for tomorrow.
Charlie,
maybe you're right.
Charlie's riding with Voorhees. He
guaranteed he's starting. He doesn't have any control over that.
Oh, he was confident that Voorhees is going to be a starter.
Okay.
So
I remember a lot of confidence in him, but it was late. So maybe I'm forgetting him guaranteeing it.
All I'm saying is we're going to learn a lot if they draft a guard today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We're going to learn a lot about how they feel inside. We're trying to gauge that.
Well, they do need depth too. And if today, like a 3rd rounder, I don't know that a 3rd rounder for sure is like threatening either guard, but they'll compete.
They will. They will. They need that regardless.
Yeah.
They need that depth regardless. But I think the point here, Marcus, is that if they had to line it up tomorrow, I'd feel good about it. Would it be great? Okay, maybe not great, but I'd feel good about it. Clinton.
Man, you know I was there I would have been happy with Tyler Booker, but that dude went did he go top 10?
Booker went top 12 to Dallas.
Oh, that's right. Dallas. That's right. I remember that now. Yeah. All right. What's this? Clinton? Clinton says, I'm listening while packing up my garage. Great show last night, and I'll be on tonight. Love it.
You packing up, Clinton, down there in Oklahoma? What's going on down there?
All right.
Rave says, have no fear. Ben Cleveland is here.
If they'll use them.
And Isaiah's.
He said, no fear. Voorhees and Fa'alele will be fine.
Answering Rave's hypothetical.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys. Awesome participation on day 2. Coverage begins at 7 o'clock tonight. We have some tentative. I have to check in with Ingraven. He's in Baltimore. He actually just texted me. I asked him how last night went because he flew in from Florida, I believe yesterday morning, and joined the 410 Sports Talk guys for an in-person live stream at a restaurant. And he was like, it was amazing, went perfect, was so much fun. I just woke up. So hopefully we can get him involved in day 2 coverage. I know Kadri wants to carve out some time for us. So look forward to kind of planning all that after this one. So much went into last night that we really haven't even looked ahead at day 2 yet in terms of what we have planned for you. But it will be a mega cast, a mini mega cast, Holly, coming up tonight. Mock drafts, what you got for us?
Well, not mock drafts just yet. I just wanted to remember we were very surprised by how much Atlanta traded up right in front of the Ravens to get edge rusher James Pierce Jr. And they gave the Los Angeles Rams a 2nd-round pick in this draft, plus next year's 1st-round pick, and then another 7th-round pick for this year. And Atlanta gave back, obviously, their 26th pick, which they used on Pierce, and then a 3rd-round pick. So that 2nd-rounder and a 1st-rounder next year is a lot to come up. And so I was like, did they think that Ravens were going to take James Pierce Jr.? From what I'm gathering, nobody in Atlanta is really even mentioning the Ravens. It went more down like this. So Bill Barnwell talks about how bad the Falcons have been in their sack rate since 2018. This has been an issue going on for several years. They were ranked 26th, then 28th, then 26th, then 32nd, then 32nd again, then 19th and 31st last year. They have not gotten any pressure on opposing quarterbacks. So Bill Barnwell says, well, I don't think that paying $1.62 on the dollar by the Jimmy Johnson chart to get a 2nd edge rusher in round 1 is good business. He said, but they may have been driven insane by those sack rate numbers. Then you have to remember earlier, the Falcons had already gotten a fellow edge rusher in Malaki Stark's former teammate, Jalen Walker out of Georgia. So now they got these 2 guys, 2 1st-round edge rushers. And Josh Kendall of The Athletic, here's what he says. He says, so this feels like the Falcons had James Pierce Jr. penciled in at number 15 when they originally were supposed to go, or when they did go. But they were surprised to see Jalen Walker available there and couldn't pass on him. But then they couldn't quit on Pierce because he kept falling. So they were all making it sound like the Falcons were just shocked that first Walker fell and then that Pierce was still available. So they're like, shoot, we were already in love with Pierce. Let's just go ahead and get him because he fell. And now we can truly address our pass rush. And to Spencer's point, good old Spenny, friend of the show, he said that it was insane that Falcons jumped the Ravens and it wasn't Starks because everybody knew it was. So other people are thinking that they really jumped up to get past the Detroit Lions because they also were known to be wanting edge rusher. And they found a partner to dance with in the LA Rams who happened to be right before the Ravens because everybody obviously knew that the Ravens wanted Starks. So it's not like they needed to jump them. So maybe it was more the Lions, but that was kind of the story there of why it seemed that they jumped up. We want to know if it was Ravens related, not seeing any news that it could have been. or that it was.
They got to hope that they're going to be able to develop James Pierce Jr. into a perennial All-Pro, Pro Bowl type player, because that's crazy compensation. I'm just as surprised 24 hours later, less than 24 hours later, as I was last night when I was trying to process it in real time. That is, wow.
Your future first rounder.
And they've made some questionable money decisions in recent years as it stands. The amount that they have on the books for Kirk Cousins, Sarah, to be their backup is astronomical. You can go all the way back to the non-exclusive tag and not showing any interest in Lamar, which we've beat it to a pulp over the years, right? And their owner talking about that. It's James better be a Hall of Famer, Sarah. James better be a Hall of Famer.
I don't know. How about a Pro Bowler? I think it'd be worth it if he were a Pro Bowler.
All right.
Maybe that. Maybe a two-time at least.
I've been known to be a little ever so slightly hyperbolic. What else you got?
All right, but what about day 2? Here we are. We're, most people happy with Malaki, but still concerned about some of the needs. The Athletics, Dane Brugler has some of the best day 2 guys still available. Bobby, this top 10 list, I don't think the Ravens have a chance of getting any of them. Mike Green, Nicky Mimawari, they don't need. They just got Malaki Starks. Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan. Donovan Ezeraku, as much as I would love that, I don't think the Ravens have a chance. We've got a wide receiver, a tight end there. Shador Sanders is still there. Offensive tackle, Carson Swishinger, who had been mocked to the Ravens a few times, and then a cornerback in Trey Amos. I don't know that they have a prayer for any of those, unless they want to move up. But hey, a bunch of 6th-round picks aren't making you move from the end of the second to the top of the second. It's just you got to use future picks to do that.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Bobby.
Keep going.
Okay, so here are some mock drafts. I just grabbed 2 from this morning. This first one's from Matt Miller of ESPN. He was one of many who predicted Malaki Starks to the Ravens, so he got that right. He also called Malaki Starks the Ravens' dream pick. So apparently their dream came true. So he's got, in the second round at number 59, cornerback out of East Carolina, Siobhan Revell Jr. He writes the Ravens can double down in the secondary and grab a 6'3" cornerback. It's a big dude who has first-round tape but fell due to an ACL injury, but all the way back in September. Okay, he says Revell has speed, length, and ball skills, but didn't get to prove himself against elite competition, which is likely why he's on the board here. Bobby, I think there's a lot of depth corner right here in the second round, right? Like sometimes you can we knew there'd be a bunch of edge rushers in the first round. We knew that it was kind of going to happen. And the same thing kind of here. It seems like there's some late second round corners are all there. That's why I thought a cornerback could get here. It's not so much about that I think the Ravens need corner over edge. I don't think it's that. But I think there's a sweet spot with corners at the end of the second round. I could be wrong, but that's what I've been hearing coming into the drafts and repeated in going into day 2.
This was Keaton's guy that he was touting yesterday with us on the show, as I mentioned earlier on. So, it's a position that you can never have enough of in Baltimore. They've learned that the hard way over the years. So, very, very, very curious to see how much more Shador slips than he already has, which is into day 2. Does he end up in the AFC North? I think we both felt relatively confident about that going into round 1. Not saying that confidence has wavered at all. Pittsburgh and Cleveland could very well take a flyer on him on day 2, but that'll be one to watch, just like it was last night.
Absolutely. I'm still very curious if he's going to end up in the AFC North. We both said either Shador or Jalen Milroe could very well end up in the AFC North, and I'm still waiting to see if that's going to happen.
If not both.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What if the Browns still have the second pick in this in the second round, right?
Here's the reality. Jalen, I would not be surprised if either one of them come off at 33 today. I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
Now, who's more likely? Probably Shador. But I wouldn't be surprised if Cleveland's like, hey, we just feel like the better option here with more upside, more longevity will be Milroe. Now, is he going to be as ready right away as Shador would be? Probably not. But maybe they want to try to find the next Lamar Jackson out there, which easier said than done.
Browns are number 1 tonight. They get the first pick in the second round.
Right.
And Bobby, I'm going to kind of speed things up here because I can hear my parents waiting for me to go to lunch. So I'll just kind of run through this next one. But USA Today, they do have an edge projected to the Ravens, and I'm going to let you pronounce this name because I've heard you say it before, and it just rolled right off your tongue.
Olufemi Oladejo.
There we go. Edge rusher out of UCLA. USA Today writes, Baltimore got great value in round 1 by picking Malaki Starks and continued to invest in the defense in round 2. Oladejo follows a familiar format to what Baltimore's done at the position for years. He's inexperienced at edge, but offers a great frame and athleticism to grow into a good starter.
Keep it coming with the quick hits here. I think you got one more on Mark.
Yeah, Mark, Cole Jackson, he was on the show last night. His streets have been somewhat reliable. He says the streets have been adamant that there's been no offers that have met the Ravens' price for tight end Mark Andrews. So they do have a price. They have been listening, but no offers have hit it. He says that hasn't changed since the original buzz. Some teams have kept tabs, but the asking price hasn't moved. He said because of that, it's unlikely 89 isn't a Raven after tonight. He wrote that before the draft started in the first round. So there we go.
And one final one. It was awesome to have Cole on too, to your point. It was one of our 7 or 8 guests that we had on last night during our mega cast. Coach Kirby Smart, multi-time national championship winner at the University of Georgia, penned a nice message on X last night for his former guy, now a Raven, Malaki Starks. He said, super proud of you. I still remember the day you committed and how excited I was to watch you grow and compete here. I'm so proud of the leader that you have become, and I'm thankful for all the memories you've given us. I can't wait to see you compete with the Ravens. Go Dogs. And I will tell you that part of the reason why I was up late last night, among many other tasks, was reaching out to 3 different SIDs at Georgia to try and get Coach Kirby Smart on our show. Lofty, yes. Out of the question, we'll see.
Whatever, man. You've been lofty before, and we've been lofty before, and that's how we get bigger guests, right? Like anywhere from Kurt Warner to Steve Young or to I know you've had Bobby Petrino on before on your personal channel. It's like you always got to shoot high. I always appreciate that about you. Yep.
Why not? So you go do what you do. I'll close things out here. Tell your parents I said hello. We got a couple super chats, and I'll give some updates on what Ing just texted me. He is going to join me if you're cool with it. He is going to join me in person at my house for a segment tonight, if that's cool.
Absolutely, of course.
We'll talk with Kadri about timing. You and I will maybe talk for a minute whenever you want this afternoon in terms of what time you think you might be available. But just give me a buzz later. We'll start talking game plan.
All right, we'll do. Thank you, Bobby.
Appreciate you, partner.
Everybody. All right, talk to everybody later. See you tonight.
Absolutely.
All right.
For those of you guys that aren't aware, Sarah's got a lot going on this weekend. Her parents are in town from Utah. They're celebrating their youngest daughter. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Shout out to Ella getting baptized this weekend. Adeet writes in, what's crazy is that both safeties were available despite only 2 quarterbacks being taken. The draft couldn't have fallen better. And, Adeet, to that point, you're sitting at like the halfway point and just Cam Ward had been taken, to your point. And you're thinking, when is this quarterback run going to happen? New Orleans passes at 9. Pittsburgh passes at 21. And it wasn't until Jackson Dart was taken and the Giants moved around the board to go get him that you're thinking, okay, is this run gonna start? But then again, Jackson Dart was taken 2 picks before the Ravens at 25. So the quarterback run never happened. And if you were to have told me that this time yesterday, I would have said, ooh, the Ravens are going to be in Slim Pickens area in territory at 27. But like they do, they sit back and they wait for value. They prioritize value. And that's exactly what they did by bringing in Malaki Starks last night. Really excited for day 2. And of course, the middle rounds of this upcoming NFL draft. 2nd and 3rd aren't considered middle. I guess day 3 really is. I guess really 3rd through 5th-ish is considered middle round. So that's what's coming up tonight. 7 o'clock is when coverage starts. That's when our live stream is currently scheduled to start. We'll let you know. We'll make updates as needed. David Keck and Asmodeus, a.k.a. Richard, my guy, both of you are supporting us through Patreon on a monthly basis. We really appreciate you guys. This is your monthly shout out. If you guys are interested in doing the same this offseason, visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast. I want to say thank you to Stuggies last night, and thank you to Preston Automotive Group and Mantis Sleep Mask for allowing us to take part in the giveaway opportunity. We had awesome giveaways: Orioles tickets, a Kyle Hamilton signed football, a Mantis Sleep Mask. We had over 9,500 concurrents at one point last night when it comes to peak concurrent viewership. That's a number. I'm not sure if we've hit it, and if we have, it's been a while. So really, really thank you to those sponsors. Thanks to all of you. This is what it looked like on my Instagram page, by the way. Stuggies is an awesome establishment in Fells Point, and Preston Automotive Group has been one of my longest standing sponsors over on the Bobby Baltimore side of things. So I really appreciate both of them and Mantis Sleep for allowing us to kind of sweeten the pot a little bit last night for all of you who give us, just a ridiculous amount of commitment and attention all year long. So, yeah, we have a lot more to do. I don't think I'm going to take that nap after all because the ghost is kicking in, and I want to make sure that we don't fall short in tonight's coverage. So it looks like Ingraven's going to be in the chair next to me at some point for at least a segment coming up tonight. The hope is that RG3 will join, Kadri will join, Sarah, of course, will be with me as always. Huge shout out to everybody that joined last night. What an awesome experience that was. If you guys want to show some love in a non-super chat setting, you can do so via Venmo at RavensVault Podcast. Anything and everything is much appreciated and goes directly to our daily efforts to bring you consistent Ravens content. Keaton apparently wants to come back, Evan, but I haven't confirmed that yet. So just stand by. Shout out to all of our new members: Pop Punk Cowboy, Azariah Sear, Dope Dad, Joe Jenkins, DJ Burke, Jack Kilroy, who was a recipient of one of our giveaways last night. We appreciate you guys so much for all the support, and we look forward to hanging out with you coming up later tonight. Like the video on your way out if you could. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification bell. You guys know the drill. Have an awesome Friday afternoon wherever you're tuning in from, perhaps a late morning if you're on the West Coast. We'll catch up with you tonight. Thanks to Mantis Sleep for the opportunity to continue to work with them and for sponsoring this episode. Have an awesome, awesome Friday afternoon. We'll catch up with you later tonight right here inside the vault. You know the drill. Talk soon.